Chapter 1: The Moment of No Return. I woke up to a sound I'll never forget. A broken whimper. Not mine. His. The first thing I felt was heat. The second was weight. My weight. Pressed over someone smaller, trembling beneath me. His scent. Sharp, sweet, unmistakable. Hit me like a punch to the skull. Omega. And then, like floodgates tearing open, the memories rushed in. Not mine. His. The novel. No. I shoved myself off him like the mattress had caught fire. My hands trembled, covered in sweat. Or maybe that was his. My body felt sluggish, heavy, foreign, like I'd been drugged. But my mind? Clear. Horrifyingly clear. Alan lay curled at the edge of the bed, his shirt torn, his legs trembling. His usually sharp, luminous eyes were wide, unfocused. Tear tracks glistened down his cheeks, and a thin sheen of sweat covered his skin. He looked wrecked, and I had done this. Or rather, he had. Ethan Blackwood. Alpha. CO. Bastard. The villain of the novel I'd finished reading just last week. And now I was him. No, no, no. I backed away, hitting the wall. My knees buckled. I dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. Alan didn't move. He was breathing barely, but made no attempt to speak. Just curled into himself like a dying animal, flinching at the smallest motion I made. What the hell was this? Was I dreaming? Hallucinating? But I knew this room. I'd read about it. Ethan's penthouse suite. Cold marble floors. Oversized bed with gray silk sheets. The balcony view of the city. All exactly as described in Fractured Stars, the melodramatic Omega revenge novel I binged in 3 days straight. Alan was the protagonist. Rookie actor, naive, talented, too trusting. And Ethan? Ethan used his status and pheromones to drug and trap him during a heat. This moment, this exact scene, was the turning point of the novel. The first violation. The root of everything that would follow. The pain. The blackmail. The humiliation. And then the revenge. I looked at my hands again. They were mine, but not. Longer fingers. Stronger grip. A body that wasn't mine. Muscles I never had. Pheromones I couldn't control. Alan? I said his name, but my voice cracked. Sounded too deep, too smooth, too wrong. His entire body tensed at the sound. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. I swear to you, it wasn't supposed to. I whispered. No excuse would fix this. Nothing I could say would change what had already been done. I tried to step closer, but he hissed. Actually hissed, and scrambled back, even in his weakened state. Don't touch me. His voice was raw, shredded, like it hurt to speak. I won't. I'm not going to hurt you. Not again. Never again. I said quickly, hands raised, as if I could stop time from bleeding forward. He stared at me like I was insane. Maybe I was. I backed out of the bedroom, grabbing the nearest blanket and tossing it toward him without making contact. I'll call your manager, or the driver, or whoever you want. You can go. Right now. He didn't answer, just glared. I escaped to the hallway, collapsed against the door, and tried not to vomit. This wasn't just some ice guy power fantasy. I had transmigrated into the life of a monster, at the worst possible moment, and done something I could never take back. The original Ethan had built his empire on money, dominance, and blackmail. He destroyed Alan's career before it even started, hoarded videos of him in vulnerable states, and used him like a pet. In the original plot, Alan eventually fought back, rebuilt himself piece by piece, and in the end, he lured Ethan into a car rigged to crash. Ethan died. The audience cheered, and now I was that bastard, alive and already drowning in Alan's hate. But I wasn't him, and I wouldn't follow that script. I was going to change this story. To avoid this tragic end, I must change it. Chapter 2. This isn't forgiveness. I didn't sleep. Not that night. Not after what happened. I spent the hours sitting on the floor outside the bedroom door like a watchdog with his neck already in the noose. At some point, I heard Alan sobbing. Quiet, stifled, like he was choking on the sound, and I couldn't go in. Not again. I didn't deserve the right to even knock. I just sat there, knees tucked up, trying to breathe through the weight of someone else's sins rotting on my skin. Around 4 a.m., I heard him moving. Slow, cautious. His footsteps across the marble were unsteady. Still in pain, no doubt. No meds, no care, just trauma. And I'd caused it. Correction, he had. The real Ethan. The original monster. But I was the one wearing his face now. The bedroom door clicked open. I stood before I even thought about it, as if I could offer anything that would make this less nightmarish. Alan stood in the doorway wrapped in a blanket, wearing the same torn clothes from before. His lips were chapped. His eyes were red. He looked at me like I was a knife with legs. "Don't say anything," he said. I didn't. His voice was flat, but his fingers trembled around the edge of the blanket. "I've already called a car. It'll be here in 20 minutes. I nodded. "I'll leave, and if you come near me again, I'll end you. Do you understand?" His eyes burned now, sharper than anything I'd seen. "Yes. Do you get what you did?" I swallowed. "I do. And I'm sorry." He laughed, dry and sharp. "You're sorry? Oh wow. What do you want? A medal?" "No, I just want you to be safe. And free," I said softly. "Too late for that." He brushed past me, limping slightly. I resisted every instinct to reach out, to help him. He would have bitten my hand off if I tried. He went into the bathroom, slammed the door. I heard the faucet run, probably scrubbing me off his skin. And I stood there, a statue in a glass prison. I knew what had to come next. The plot, the chapters, the chain of events that led to Ethan's death and Alan's rise. If this timeline stuck to the novel, Alan would return to his apartment and find a folder on his doorstep. Inside, photos, videos, threats. The blackmail that kept him leashed to Ethan for years. But I couldn't let that happen. I raced to the home office. It took minutes to find the real Ethan's hidden stash, password-protected hard drives, backup servers, lockboxes, the worst kind of trophies. I took everything, dragged it all to the bathtub, poured liquor over it, watched it spark and sizzle and melt under flame. The smell of burnt plastic filled the suite. Let the bastard's empire rot. By the time I came back out, Alan was gone. Just the faint trail of his scent remained. Something sweet like crushed violets, ruined by bitterness. I stood by the window watching the black sedan drive away. He didn't look back. Why would he? If I were him, I'd want Ethan Blackwood dead too. But that wasn't going to happen. Not this time. I'm going to do everything to avoid that. Later that morning, I sat in the penthouse kitchen in silence, drinking bitter coffee and trying to sketch out a survival plan. Step 1, don't die. Step 2, protect Alan. Step 3, never let him find out the truth. Not about the original Ethan, not about the novel, not about me. There was no scenario where that ended well. He wouldn't believe me anyway. No one would. They'd lock me up or worse. Besides, I didn't want redemption. I wasn't owed forgiveness. I just wanted to give him back what had been stolen. His future. And when he had it, the awards, the spotlight, the freedom, I'd step off stage. Quietly. Forever. But first, I had to rewrite a story I already knew the ending to. And it started with making sure Alan never had to see me again. At least, not until I could find a way to be someone else. Chapter 3, Ghost of a Villain. For 3 days, I didn't leave the penthouse. Not out of shame, though there was enough of that to drown in, but strategy. I had to disappear, at least from his orbit. If Alan saw me again too soon, he'd burn the world to salt just to be sure I wasn't hiding in it. And he'd be right to. So I sat in the echo of Ethan Blackwood's life. A penthouse filled with curated emptiness, polished floors, designer art, a liquor cabinet full of expensive poisons. Nothing personal, nothing real. Exactly like the man who used to live here. I changed all the passwords, fired the assistant who had helped arrange Alan's visit, froze the security team who handled Alpha Discretion Services, burned old call logs, wiped phones, deleted cloud backups. I dismantled Ethan's predatory empire piece by piece. But it wasn't enough. Not even close. I couldn't undo the fact that I wore a rapist's face. On the 4th day, I broke my own rule. I went to see him. Not directly. I wasn't suicidal. But I'd heard through corporate buzz that Alan had started filming a small-budget indie drama. I remembered it from the novel Grain of Heaven, a film that would become a cult hit years later. His first serious role. He was supposed to get it through raw talent and a bit of luck. This time, he got it because I paid the original lead actor to drop out. Alan never had to know. I showed up at the filming location mid-afternoon, in a black car with tinted windows. Stayed inside. Watched from a distance. And there he was, Alan, under the golden haze of a dying sun, wearing a tattered school uniform, tears in his eyes as he leaned against a rusted rail in the middle of a scene. He didn't look at the camera once. Just acted, completely present, completely raw. It wasn't acting. It was bleeding. Even from behind glass, I could see it. The pain still clung to him like wet smoke. He was using the role to exorcise it. Or maybe just to survive. God, he was good. Better than I remembered. Better than the novel described. The director called cut. Alan straightened, wiped his face, nodded to the crew. No smiles. No ego. Just quiet professionalism. And then he looked up. Right at me. Across the street. Into the black car. Through the tinted glass. Like he knew. My heart stopped. He turned away a second later, said something to a production assistant, and disappeared into the warehouse they were using as a makeshift set. I exhaled only once he was gone. That night, I received an email from the casting director. Ethan, the kid's good. Too good. Give it a month, and everyone will be calling him the next big thing. You sure you don't want your name on this one? I stared at the screen for a while before replying. No. Keep my name out of it. Let the kid shine. Let him climb, I told myself. Let him become the star he was meant to be. But despite all my precautions, he did find out I was involved. 2 days later, my secretary forwarded a message. Alan had shown up at my company's lobby. Demanded a meeting. I considered ignoring it. I should have, but I didn't. He walked into my office with the kind of cold control that would make a lesser man flinch. I stood as he entered, but didn't reach out. Didn't speak. He shut the door behind him. No pleasantries. You paid for the lead to back out of Grain of Heaven. His voice was low even. I did, I said. Why? I paused. Then, because I believed in you. Don't feed me lines. What's your game now? Guilt? Obsession? Trying to chain me with favors instead of threats. His eyes narrowed. I'm not chaining you to anything, Alan. You think I owe you something? No. I'm trying to pay back what I stole. He scoffed. You think this is reparations? I think it's a start. He stepped closer, and for a second, I saw something in his gaze. Not anger. Not hate. Pity. I don't want your money. I don't want your help. And I sure as hell don't want your pity. Stay away from me. He said, voice razor thin. I nodded. If that's what you want. It is. Then I will. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. Just one thing. Why do you keep looking at me like that? He said over his shoulder. Like what? Like you're mourning someone who's still alive. He didn't wait for an answer. When the door clicked shut behind him, I sat down slowly, because he wasn't wrong. I was mourning someone, not him, me, the version of myself that didn't exist anymore. The one who could have been in his own world, a real world where I don't have to deal with these things. But this wasn't that, and I'm already in it, whether I like it or not. And surviving this, I should figure out how by myself. Chapter 4: Power Behind the Curtain. Ethan wasn't a good man. Ethan wasn't a savior. Ethan wasn't brave. Ethan wasn't noble. What Ethan was rich. Super rich. And I knew how to use that. That meant I could buy influence without names, move talent without questions, and shape careers from the shadows. So that's what I did. I made Alan's path a little less jagged. Quietly, systematically, without ever attaching my name. If there was a locked door in his way, I had it opened before he ever touched the handle. If a critic tried to smear his name, their editor received a generous grant, with a subtle implication that pushing false narratives wasn't a great business model. I made it so his light wasn't buried under scandal or silence. But I never got close, never reached out. I watched him rise like a phantom in his rearview mirror. He'd already told me what he wanted. Stay away. And I meant to honor that. Until he got hurt. It was late, nearly 2 a.m. when I got the message from a production runner I had on silent retainer. Alan collapsed on set. Refused ambulance. Director sent him home. Thought you'd want to know. I dropped my drink mid-sip. Glass shattered on the marble. I didn't even look at it. 10 minutes later, I was in the car. Alan's apartment was nothing like mine. Small, clean, quiet. Second floor walk-up with a rusted balcony and a cracked window pane near the fire escape. He should have moved out months ago. He could afford better now. I made sure of it. But of course he wouldn't. Pride like his didn't bend, didn't break. Not for comfort. Not for me. I didn't knock. I had a key. One the original Ethan had used without permission. I should have tossed it. But right then I needed it. The door creaked open. Inside was dark, except for the flicker of the TV left on mute. Alan was slumped on the couch, still in costume, pale, sweaty, a heating patch taped to his lower back, a water bottle untouched beside him. He hadn't made it to bed. Alan, I said, quiet as I could. He stirred slightly, didn't wake. I stepped closer, heart slamming against my ribs. I checked his temperature, burning, his breathing shallow. This wasn't just exhaustion. This was overdrive. He'd worked himself until his body cracked. Typical. Of course he would. That's what he always did in the book. Worked like he was trying to outrun the pain. I should have called a doctor. Instead, I fetched a wet towel from his bathroom, wiped down his forehead, and lowered the AC. He moaned once, barely conscious, curling into the couch like a kid trying to hide from the world. And I sat there for a while, just watching him breathe. When I left, I locked the door behind me and dropped the key into the mailbox slot. I wouldn't use it again. He'd never know I was there. And if he did, he'd hate me even more. The next morning, headlines buzzed. Alan Zhao stuns again with raw, riveting performance in Indie Breakout. Rising Omega star breaks the mold. What's next for Alan Zhao? I smiled. It didn't last. That afternoon, I received a visit from my business partner, Marcus Lin, a snake in a $1,000 suit with ambition for blood and no moral breaks. I saw the new kid, Alan Zhao. Pretty thing. Got those fuck me eyes. You putting money on his back? Or on his front? He said, sitting across from my desk uninvited. I looked up from my laptop. You want to repeat that? I asked tone flat. He grinned. Relax. Just asking if he's one of ours. If not, I might slide in. Guy like that, all alone in this industry. He's gonna need a hand. I stood. Marcus blinked. Then I reached into my desk drawer, pulled out a manila folder, and tossed it in front of him. Inside, screenshots, audio clips, emails, every shady deal he'd cut without me. Illegal fund transfers, harassment settlements. His smirk dropped. You're done. Clean out your office. Leave the country. Or I leak this. And your career dies before your dick can twitch again. I said calmly. He stood, slowly. You're really going to throw me under the bus for some washed-out Omega with a pretty face? He said. No. I'm doing it because the company needs disinfecting. He left. And I stood there for a long time, staring at the folder, wondering how many more bodies I'd have to bury to keep Alan safe. Probably all of them. The power I had wasn't clean. But at least I was finally using it for something that mattered. And maybe, someday, if he reached the top, if he looked out over that glowing skyline and felt proud, he wouldn't know who to thank. But I'd know. And that would be enough. Chapter 5 Light on the stage. I didn't expect him to win. Not this early. Not in a cutthroat industry that chewed up Omegas and spat out their bones the second they stopped being marketable. But Alan didn't just survive, he commanded. Grain of Heaven screened at a local film festival. Small venue, modest crowd. By the second act, you could have heard a pin drop. Not because the film was loud, but because he was quiet. So quiet, and yet so raw that every twitch of his hand, Every blink carried weight. He didn't act. He confessed. At the after-party, I didn't go in. I stood across the street, watching him through the rooftop glass like a ghost too cowardly to haunt. People flocked to him. A director I recognized from a bigger studio, producer with shark's eyes, and someone from an agent group notorious for reshaping careers and breaking clients when they didn't play along. Alan held his own, graceful, calm, cold where he needed to be, smiling when it served him. He had learned, and I had never been prouder or more certain that I didn't belong anywhere near him, until 2 days later, when he stormed into my office unannounced. "Lock the door," he said, voice flat. I looked up from my desk, caught off guard. "Alan, do it." I pressed the button under my desk that sealed the office. Soundproof, bulletproof. Ironic, considering what he looked ready to do. He threw a folded sheet of paper on the table. I didn't need to read it. I knew what it was. A contract offer from Tempest Studios, an alpha-dominated, omega-exploiting hellhole. "You intercepted this," he said. I kept my face still. "Yes. You leaked their harassment settlements to the press." "I did." He took a slow step forward. "You torpedoed a career-making deal for me." "No, I torpedoed a deal that would have made you miserable. Used you. Ruined you. That's not a career. That's a slow death on a gold leash." I said. "You think you get to decide that for me?" "No. I just didn't want you to find out the hard way," I said again. He laughed, bitter and low. "You always show up like this, behind the scenes, silently adjusting the world. Are you trying to buy my trust?" I stood. "I don't want your trust, Alan." "Then what do you want?" I hesitated. Here it was, the question I'd been dreading. The moment I could say the truth. "I'm not him. I don't belong here. I was just a reader once, watching your life fall apart through printed pages." But I couldn't say that. Not just because he wouldn't believe me, because he shouldn't have to believe something that insane. So instead, I gave him the only truth I could offer. "I want you to win," I said. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "I want you to become so successful that nothing and no one can ever use you again. Not studios, not agents, not men like me. I want you to be untouchable." Silence hung between us. Then, quietly, and then I won't interfere with your life. Not ever. Not again," I said. Alan blinked. I didn't move. He turned toward the door. His hand hovered over the lock, but he paused. "Don't you ever feel dirty, pretending you're helping when all you're doing is erasing guilt? Every second of every day." He didn't say anything after that. He just left. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment. The city lights flickered like dying stars outside the windows. I turned off the TV, sat in silence. He was right. This wasn't redemption. This was penance with no end. But even if I never earned a shred of his forgiveness, even if he hated me until the day I died, I'd still do it all again. Because this wasn't about me anymore. It was about Alan standing on a stage one day, holding an award that said Best Actor, while the entire world finally saw what I'd seen from the start. That he was never just a victim. He was a force of nature. And no one, not even the man I used to be, could take that away from him again. Chapter 6: Chains and Choices. The thing about guilt? It doesn't die. You just get used to carrying it like a second spine. Heavy, twisted, permanent. I told myself I was prepared to pay for what I'd done, or rather, what he had done, the original Ethan. But I hadn't really considered the price. Not until I saw the look in Alan's eyes again. Not anger. Not confusion. Calculation. It started subtly. An award show invite I knew he hadn't earned yet. Not because he lacked talent, but because it was months too early for the industry to pivot in his direction. Still, there it was, a nomination. Best breakthrough role. Prime time spotlight. I hadn't touched it. Hadn't called anyone. So who had? Then came the photos. Alan exiting expensive cars. Dining with elite producers. Rumors of contracts that didn't match his agency's record. It didn't add up. And I knew Alan. Knew how much he hated backdoor deals. Which meant one of two things. Either someone was backing him behind my back, Or he was using the system himself. The same way the original Ethan once did. I didn't sleep again. I spent hours reviewing documents, digging through studio chatter, tracing paper trails. It led nowhere. Until one morning, my head of security walked into my office, nervous and pale. "There's something you need to see, sir." He handed me a tablet. Footage. Not new. Weeks old. I hit play. My heart stopped. It was me, standing outside Alan's apartment, carrying him from the couch, wiping his forehead, adjusting the thermostat, silent, gentle, careful, like a caretaker, like a man in love. And I remembered that night. I had burned the key afterward, swore to never return, never let him know I was there. But he did know. The camera was hidden in the hallway light. He'd filmed me, and he hadn't said a word. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. So that was it. Alan wasn't done. Not even close. He was watching, planning, recording, and he'd let me believe I was helping while quietly setting the trap. Couldn't even be mad, because I'd done worse. 2 nights later, we crossed paths at an industry gala. He looked radiant. That was the only word I could think of. Crisp navy suit. A thin silver chain around his throat. The kind of accessory only an Omega with confidence wore. He smiled at someone behind me. The smile didn't reach his eyes. I excused myself from the group I was with and cornered him in the back garden near the fountains. "Alan." He turned slowly. Sipping from a crystal flute like this was just another Tuesday. "You've been busy," I said. "Have I? Why didn't you tell me about the camera?" He tilted his head. "What camera?" I gave him a look. One that said, "Don't insult me." He didn't flinch. "Oh, that one. Right. I forgot it was still installed." He shrugged. "You recorded me." "I didn't tell you to show up," he said simply. "That's not the point." "No, Ethan. The point is you've been sneaking into my life, fixing things, pretending not to need anything in return. So I wanted to see what the great Ethan Blackwood looked like when no one was watching." And his eyes sharpened. "You looked guilty, pathetic, like someone begging for punishment but too cowardly to ask for it." I swallowed hard. "So what now?" He leaned in just enough that I could smell the citrus in his cologne. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Now I wait." "For what?" "For you to slip." I stared at him. Alan stared back. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. He hadn't forgiven me, not even a little. He'd just gotten better at wearing the mask. He wanted control now. He wanted power. He wanted me where he used to be, exposed, helpless, humiliated. And if I kept playing hero, I'd be walking straight into it. But even knowing that, I couldn't walk away. Because the part of me that wanted him to succeed, to win, to rise, to burn brighter than anyone else, still outweighed the part of me that wanted to be safe. I'd already rewritten the novel's events. But I had no illusions now. The new ending? It might be even crueler than the original. Chapter 7: Alan's Rules. There was no official declaration. No press conference. No headline. No grand falling out. But Alan made it clear. I was not to be near him. No phone calls. No texts. No flowers. No silent drivers waiting outside his chute. No contact. Period. The message came in a crisp, politely worded letter. Not from him, of course, from his new PR manager. A subtle threat tucked in between the lines. Mr. Zhao respectfully requests professional distance moving forward. Continued unsolicited involvement may lead to legal consequences. Legal consequences. As if I hadn't already sentenced myself to a lifetime of those. I folded the letter in half and burned it in my kitchen sink. I didn't reach out. Didn't interfere when Alan started working 16-hour days without a handler. Didn't interfere when his omega suppressants triggered a side effect that hospitalized him for 2 nights. He refused help. Refused rest. I watched it all from afar. A ghost clutching his wallet, terrified of the cost of kindness. I wanted to call him. I didn't. Instead, I made new rules for myself. Rule 1. No interference. Rule 2. No proximity. Rule 3. No emotion. I broke all 3 within a week. It was the after-party for Glass Shadows, Alan's second indie film. A performance so sharp it could draw blood. The critics were already foaming. Some were calling him the Omega Daniel Day-Lewis. I stayed outside the venue, just like last time. Hidden. Watching. He exited the side door alone, coat wrapped tight around him, cigarette between his fingers. The cold bit through the autumn air, sharp as glass. He leaned against a column, head tilted toward the sky. His fingers trembled slightly. The nicotine wasn't helping. I told myself to stay put. I didn't. I approached slowly, quietly, like a man walking toward the edge of a cliff, knowing full well the ground wouldn't hold. He didn't look at me, but I knew he sensed me. His body tensed the way animals do before a storm. "Need a light?" I asked. He turned his head just enough to side-eye me. "It's already lit, right?" I stayed a few feet away, silent. Finally, he sighed. "I thought we had rules." "We did." "Did?" "I'm breaking them." A long pause. "I don't need your protection," he said, voice low. "I know. I don't want your attention. You've got it anyway." He flicked ash off the cigarette. "You always do this. Quiet savior act. Watching from the corners like some tragic vampire. I was going for guilt-ridden billionaire, but sure, that earned me a twitch of the mouth. Not a smile, but not a scowl either. Progress?" He turned toward me fully, smoke curling between us. "So what do you want now?" "Just wanted to make sure you were okay." "I'm not," he said simply. I nodded. "That makes two of us." We stood there for a while, two shadows in the alley between success and regret. His breath fogged the air. Mine just caught in my throat. "You're waiting for me to forgive you," he said suddenly. "No, I'm not that stupid," I replied. "Then why are you still here?" I looked him in the eye. "Because I don't know how to walk away from someone I owe everything to." He didn't answer, just stared at me like he was trying to see where the seams in my skin ended and the lies began. Then quietly, "Fine. You want something to hold on to? Here's a rule for you." I raised an eyebrow. "A rule?" "Yeah, let's make it official. You stay out of my personal life. Completely. No favors. No cleanup. No safety net." He stepped closer, until I could see the amber flecks in his eyes under the streetlight. I nodded. "Done. And in exchange, I won't release the videos," he said, voice soft as poison, a silence like gunfire. "Still keeping those, huh?" He smiled. "Of course. Why throw away leverage when I don't know what game you're playing?" I bit back the urge to say, "There is no game. Just me, crawling behind you trying to erase footsteps I didn't mean to leave." Instead, I just said, "You win." "Good, now follow the rules," he whispered. And then he was gone, leaving behind only the smoke and a fresh set of chains. Alan wasn't playing revenge anymore. He was building a kingdom and making damn sure I was the servant, not the king. And part of me, the worst part, was willing to serve. Chapter 8: Rumors and Shadows. Fame comes like a wave. Loud, relentless, beautiful. And if you're not careful, it pulls you under. Alan was drowning in it. But the terrifying part? He was smiling the whole way down. The campaign for Winter Lies exploded. It went from a dark horse drama to an Oscar contender overnight, and Alan, fragile, private, precise Alan, became the centerpiece. Every photo shoot, every headline, every critic's column carried his name. Alan Zhao. 3 syllables the world finally learned to say without condescension. He didn't just shine. He burned. And I watched it all happen from the dark, until someone pulled me into the light with him. The first article was small. Local gossip blog. Harmless. Mysterious backer spotted near Zhao shoots. Is a romance brewing? The photo, grainy. Me outside a studio lot. Face half-turned, unrecognizable unless you knew. Alan didn't say anything, but someone leaked more. Days later, bigger headlines hit. Zhao's secret alpha? Blackwood connection rumors swirl. From predator to patron. What's Ethan Blackwood's role in Zhao's meteoric rise? They called me the villain. Again. Still. Always. They questioned Alan's talent. reduced his art to a price tag and a bedroom whisper. I didn't care what they said about me. Original Ethan earned the hate. But dragging Alan into my mess? That I couldn't stomach. I called a press liaison I hadn't spoken to in years. Start crafting a narrative, I said. Romantic? Redemptive? Neither. I want denial. Clean, boring, and undeniable. He doesn't owe me anything. And you? Make me look like an obsessed has-been. Some relic who tried to rebrand himself by attaching to the next big thing. There was a pause. That's going to tank your rep. Good. 3 hours later, Alan showed up at my building unannounced. No warning. No appointment. Just his sharp-knuckled knock on the private elevator door. I opened it. He stepped in, eyes blazing. You threw yourself under the bus, he said without preamble. Someone had to. You made yourself look like a joke. I shrugged. I've been worse. You think I needed that kind of help? No. I think you deserved better than getting dragged through the dirt because I can't erase my past. He crossed his arms, pacing the penthouse like he owned it. Maybe he did. I wouldn't have stopped him if he asked. You think this makes us even? He asked. No. Then what's your angle, Ethan? No angle. Just trying to put out the fire I started. He stopped, looked at me, really looked. You keep saying things like that, like you're the villain. But the man I remember wouldn't be doing any of this. That's because I'm not the man you remember. I hadn't meant to say it, but it slipped out soft and real. Alan's brow furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I shook my head. Doesn't matter. He stepped closer. Too close. Again. I could feel the heat between us, that constant tension humming beneath every breath. You keep pretending you're not asking for forgiveness, but deep down you want me to see you differently, he said. No, I want you to see yourself clearly, and never let anyone take that away again. Even me, I said quietly. He stared, and for a second, just a second, his expression cracked. Not soft, not warm, just confused. As if somewhere inside that wall of vengeance, the man he used to be was still trying to decide whether he hated me or just didn't understand me anymore. He left without another word. That night, the press ran a follow-up. Zhao denies all involvement with Blackwood. I stand alone. I read the article 3 times. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Because I knew he meant it. Because I wanted him to stand alone. And I would stay in the shadows until he reached the top of the world, no matter how many knives I had to catch on the way. Chapter 9 Breakthrough. The thing about a slow spiral, you don't realize you've hit the bottom until it's too quiet to hear yourself breathe. That's how it felt the night Alan forced the question out of me. The one I had been avoiding since the moment I landed in this cursed skin. Not what are you hiding, but why are you still here? It started with a message. Hand-delivered. Not a text. Not an email. A folded slip of paper brought to my desk by a silent intern who wouldn't meet my eyes. Tonight. Midnight. Rooftop of Echelon Hotel. Come alone. I went. Of course I did. He was already there when I arrived. Back to me, leaning on the railing. Black coat fluttering in the wind like it belonged in a noir film. The skyline stretched behind him. Cold, metallic, indifferent. I kept my steps slow. He didn't turn around. I figured if I invited you somewhere public, you'd be less inclined to lie. I smiled without humor. I lie better in public, actually. Too bad. I want the version that cracks. I joined him by the railing, leaving space between us. What is this, Alan? Another test? No, this is the last one, he said. We stood in silence for a long time. He didn't look at me when he spoke again. You're not the same man. No, I'm not. You don't talk the same. You don't touch the same. You don't even breathe the same. My throat tightened. You show up when I'm too tired to fight. You protect me when no one's looking. You act like you owe me a lifetime, but I don't remember giving you anything to begin with. I said nothing. His voice lowered. So I need to know what changed? Still nothing from me. That's when he turned. Eyes sharp, breath unsteady, and underneath all that control, fear. Not fear of me, fear of not knowing. Are you dying? he asked. No. Are you sick? No. Then tell me what the hell happened to you, Ethan. I exhaled slowly, then looked him straight in the eyes. I woke up one day and saw the blood on my hands. Alan stared at me. And, he said, and I couldn't live with it. That's not an answer. No, it's not. But it's the only one I can give you. I admitted. You expect me to believe that some cosmic epiphany flipped you from predator to patron? I expect you to believe I'm not the man you remember. And what are you? I looked at him, at the man I had once read about, the man I was supposed to break, humiliate, and discard, the man who was supposed to kill me, and all I could say was, I'm the man who regrets it. His expression didn't change at first. Then he stepped in, too close, again, and looked at me with something almost like heartbreak. Do you want forgiveness? He asked. No. Then what? I want you to win. Stop saying that. It's the truth. No, it's your obsession. Maybe, but it's mine, not yours. And I won't let it touch you, I said. His eyes narrowed. That's a dangerous thing to say. What if I want it to touch me? That shut me up. He leaned in closer, voice lowered to a whisper. What if I want to know what's really going on in that twisted, broken head of yours? Ethan, what if I'm not trying to destroy you anymore, just trying to understand you? I froze, because for the first time since I arrived in this world, I didn't know if he was bluffing, or if something real was finally bleeding through the cracks. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. We just stood there, face to face, breathing the same winter air like it might burn through whatever this was. Then Alan turned away again. Next time I ask, I expect a real answer. I nodded once. Okay. He left first, and I stayed behind, watching the sky swallow the last sliver of his silhouette. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was the first time he hadn't looked at me like I was already dead. And that felt dangerously close to hope. Chapter 10, The Trap Turns. I thought I would feel relief, packing up my life, signing over control of the company, drafting the will, liquidating the last traces of Ethan Blackwood's shadowy empire. I thought I'd feel free. Instead, it felt like dying a second time. Alan had won his Best Actor award. He stood under a storm of applause, spotlight blazing down on him like the world had finally caught up to what I'd known all along. And I didn't go to the ceremony. I watched from my penthouse, alone, wearing the same black suit I'd bought the day I buried the original Ethan's legacy. On screen, Alan held the trophy, gold and sharp, like a blade disguised as praise. He didn't thank me. Of course he didn't. He'd earned it. The next morning, I vanished. I cut off contact with everyone, quietly transferred money into a dozen scholarship funds under Alan's name, set up anonymous donations for abuse shelters, deleted the last burner phone with his number on it. And then I left the city, rented a cabin 3 hours out, near the coast. No neighbors, no press, no reminders. I told myself I would start over. A new name, a new purpose, something small, something meaningless, something safe. 3 days in, he found me. I came back from a walk, rain dripping off my shoulders, hands stuffed in my coat, and found him sitting on the front porch, like he'd been waiting hours, like he knew I'd run. I stopped in my tracks. Alan, he stood. You really thought I'd let you disappear? I didn't answer. He stepped forward slowly. After everything? After turning my entire life inside out? After crawling into every inch of my shadow for years? I looked him in the eye. You don't need me anymore. That's not your call. It is, because this time I choose to let go. I said softly. He stared at me unreadable, then pulled something out of his coat pocket and held it up. My breath stopped. A flash drive, silver, labeled with a red sticker. I knew exactly what was on it. The hallway footage, the recordings, my secrets, all of them. I wasn't bluffing, he said. I know. You walk away. This goes public. I figured. And you're just going to let me? I nodded. If that's what you want. He clenched his jaw. Something cracked in his eyes. Not anger. Something deeper. More dangerous. You don't get to make me hate you and then vanish. I never wanted you to hate me. But you let it happen anyway. He stepped closer. You act like everything you've done makes you a martyr. But you're not noble, Ethan. You're just a coward who thinks disappearing is the same as redemption. I'm not looking for redemption. Then what are you looking for? I swallowed hard. Peace. A pause. Then lower. And what if I don't let you have it? I looked at him. Really looked. The fire in his eyes. The tremor in his fingers. The confusion wrapped around his fury. And the grief underneath it all. I'll stay, I said. He blinked. What? I'll stay, Alan. If that's what you want. Silence fell like snowfall between us. He said nothing. Didn't nod. Didn't speak. Just stepped forward. Pressed the flash drive into my palm. And curled my fingers over it. His hand lingered. Warm. Alive. Real. You don't get to leave me, not until I decide it's over. He whispered. And if it never is? His smile was slow. Bitter. Then I guess you're stuck. He stayed the night. On the couch. Not in the bed. But close enough that I could hear his breathing through the wall. I didn't sleep. Not because of fear. Because for the first time I didn't know if this was still revenge. Or something else neither of us had the words for. Chapter 11, Hate or Something Else. It started subtly. A toothbrush in my bathroom. Alan's favorite blend of tea in my kitchen cabinet. One drawer in the dresser slowly filling with folded shirts I hadn't bought. He didn't ask to move in. He just never left. The cabin wasn't built for two. But somehow it adjusted to him. Or maybe I did. At first, I kept expecting him to snap, to punish me for the years he spent in my shadow. But he didn't lash out. He didn't raise his voice. He just watched me, like I was a case study in guilt. Like he wanted to see how long I'd last before unraveling. One morning, I woke to find him making coffee. Shirtless. Calm. Like this had always been his home. He slid a mug across the counter. Black. No sugar. Just how I liked it. I stared at the cup like it was ticking. You poison it? I muttered. Wouldn't be poetic enough. I'd wait until you're comfortable. Then gut you emotionally. He said, sipping his own. I smirked. So we're still playing honesty? He didn't smile back. That wasn't a joke. He set rules. Not directly. He never said the words. But suddenly I needed to text him if I left the house. He started managing my schedule, or rather canceling it. Old business contacts went dark. My calendar emptied. He controlled my day before I realized it. First, I let it happen. It was easier that way. Easier to obey than to fight someone you'd already broken. I thought I was letting him win. But the longer it went on, the more I started to wonder, was I letting him trap me? Or was I secretly relieved to be owned? The real shift came late one night. We were on the porch. Rain hitting the roof in soft sheets. He was barefoot, wearing my hoodie, staring into the dark. I brought him a blanket. He didn't take it. Just asked quietly, "Why didn't you fight back when I threatened to expose you?" I sat beside him. Because I deserved it. Still do. Yes. He turned to me, eyes glinting in the moonlight. That's pathetic. I know. You could take everything back. You could ruin me in a day if you wanted. He said. I wouldn't. Why not? Because I'm tired of being the past version of myself. Alan studied me for a long time, then leaned in slightly, not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel heat pass between us. You keep calling yourself that you are someone else, but I think you like being mine, he murmured. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Because he was right. There was something twisted inside me. Something that found peace in submission. Not because I wanted forgiveness, but because I wanted him. Even if it meant being caged. That night, I dreamed of the original Ethan. He looked like me, spoke like me, but his smile was colder, crueler. He stood in a dark mirror and whispered, "You think this changes anything? You're still me, just dressed in softer heart." I woke up sweating. Alan wasn't in bed. I found him in the living room, sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered documents. My documents, contracts, wills, ownership transfers, bank accounts. Alan, sit, he ordered. I did. He picked up a file and tossed it at me. You really planned to vanish? Yes. You wrote me into your will. Of course. He looked at me, voice tight. Why? Because everything I have was built on hurting you. It belongs to you now. Alan stood abruptly, pacing. This isn't revenge anymore, he muttered. You're making it too easy. I'm not playing anymore. No, you're not resisting. That's worse. He snapped. I stood too, walked over, met his eyes. Then stop trying to break me, Alan, and tell me what you actually want. I said. Silence. Then he whispered, I want you to need me as much as I needed you. And that was the cruelest thing he'd ever said. Because he already had it. And he knew it. Chapter 12. This isn't revenge anymore. We'd circled each other for months. Fangs hidden behind quiet words. Hands that lingered too long. Conversations that never quite said what they meant. We played our parts, victim and monster, captor and penitent. But we were lying. To ourselves. To each other. And on that cold night, with the wind rattling the windows and the lights turned low, every lie burned to ash. It started with silence. We'd been eating dinner or pretending to. Forks scraping plates. No conversation. Alan set his glass down hard enough to make it ring. I'm sick of this, he said. I looked up slowly. Of what? This performance. This house. This limbo you've locked us in. I didn't lock you in. No? Then why haven't you left? He stood. You told me not to. And you obeyed. Like a dog. I placed my fork down. Would you rather I fought you? He stepped around the table. I'd rather you acted like you have a spine. I gave you the power. I don't want power, Ethan. Yes, you do. He stopped. I stood too. You say it's not revenge anymore, but you're still keeping score. Still holding the leash. You want me close but punished. Needed but controlled. What is it, Alan? You want me to love you or hate you? I said quietly. He didn't blink. Then, I want you to burn for me. He slammed me into the wall. Mouth crushed to mine. No warning. No hesitation. His kiss wasn't soft. It was brutal. Teeth. Breath. Fury. I didn't resist. Couldn't. I kissed him back with every ounce of guilt, longing, and sick, twisted need that had been buried under months of penance. He pulled away just enough to whisper, Say it. What? Tell me you want this. I want you. That's not what I asked. I met his eyes. I want to be yours. That broke something in him. He kissed me again, slower this time, but no less demanding. Like he was trying to claim everything I'd ever been, even the pieces that didn't belong to this world. We didn't make it to the bedroom. The couch was enough. The floor, the wall, it didn't matter. Clothes came off in fragments. Words were muttered between gasps, promises and curses, gratitude and grief. He marked me, bared his neck, then bit mine. It wasn't about dominance. Not really. It was survival. Two people clinging to each other in the wreckage of what they used to be. After we lay on the floor, breathing, quiet, his head on my chest, my hand in his hair. The fire crackled. You're still leaving, aren't you? He asked. I shook my head. Not unless you throw me out. He didn't speak for a while. Then softly, don't ever make me feel powerless again. I wrapped my arms around him tighter. You never were. That night I didn't dream of the old Ethan. I dreamed of Alan. Not the avenger. Not the victim. Just him. Sleeping beside me like maybe, just maybe, there was something left to build from the ruins. Chapter 13, The Death That Never Came. He didn't speak much during the drive. Alan just gripped the wheel and stared straight ahead. His jaw locked, eyes unreadable. The same silence he used to punish, to test, to pull me toward the edge. I didn't ask where we were going. When you live under someone else's rules, you learn not to ask questions. Just to obey and watch for the shift in their tone. It was early evening. The sky gray, dipped in low light. He drove us out of the city and into the hills, where cell service dropped and the trees turned dense and tall like something ancient. Eventually, we turned off the main road onto a narrow gravel path. It ended at a clearing overlooking a steep drop. A cliff, almost cinematic in its isolation. No guardrails, no markers. Just dirt, wind, and silence. He killed the engine. We sat there in stillness. Then, without looking at me, he said, "You ever wonder how far I'd go?" I didn't answer, because I had. Every day. He turned slightly, finally facing me. "There were times I thought about crashing this car with you in it. Not because I hated you, not exactly. Just to see if I could do it. If you'd stop me. Or if you'd let me." He said calmly. I didn't flinch, because I would have let him. But in the back of my mind, a memory stirred. A memory that belonged to the original plot. The way that the author described it. A flash of twisted metal, the scream of tires, the way the windshield split like glass trying to cry. A cliff. This cliff. Ethan's blood smeared across the steering wheel. Alan's figure standing in the rain, watching from above as Ethan bled out. It wasn't real, but it felt real. The plot at least came this far. But this time, Alan didn't want to kill me. He wanted to own me. And yet, here we were. Still breathing. Still breaking each other in slow, deliberate pieces. He waited for me to react. When I didn't, he looked disappointed. "Told you. You don't even fight for yourself." I looked out the window. "Do you want me to?" "Sometimes." "Why?" He didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "Because it means you're still yours. Not just mine." We stepped out of the car. The wind cut cold across the clearing. Leaves rustled like whispers trying to escape. I followed him toward the cliff's edge. He stood there, hands in his pockets, as if daring me to step beside him. "Do you ever think about it? Just letting go?" he asked. "All the time." "And why haven't you?" I swallowed. "Because you're still holding on." He turned to face me fully. "You're not the one in control anymore. You haven't been for a long time." "I know. And yet you stay," he said, stepping closer. "Because you're the only thing left that feels real." His eyes flickered. Not soft, not cruel, just raw. "Do you love me?" he asked. The question landed like a knife. "I don't know what this is," I said. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." He reached out. Fingers slid around the back of my neck. Not gentle, not rough, just there, claiming. "I wanted to ruin you. I know. I still might. I know." He leaned in, breath against my lips. "Say something selfish, Ethan." I closed my eyes. "I want to wake up next to you again." He kissed me, and it wasn't about ownership or control or dominance. It was about staying. We didn't fall off the cliff that day. No wheels skidded. No twisted metal. No blood in the dirt. Just two men standing on the edge. And for once, neither of us jumped. Chapter 14. Lovers, not enemies. We didn't talk about the kiss. Not the next day. Not the next week. It hung between us like a painting neither of us could take down. Every time we looked at each other, we were staring at it again. But something shifted after that night on the cliff. Alan stopped watching me like a threat, and I stopped waiting for him to leave. He stayed. Not like a hostage guarding his own cage. Not like a king watching over a conquered enemy. He stayed like a man who had finally, reluctantly, decided to be known. And I let him. Some days were sharp. Arguments over nothing. Space that didn't feel spacious enough. Tension that rose like smoke in a locked room. Other days were quiet. 2 mugs on the counter. His hoodie on my chair. My hand brushing his as we passed each other and pretending it wasn't on purpose. He started sleeping in the bed. Not always next to me, but close enough. And that was more than I'd ever asked for. One night, I woke to find him sitting up, watching me. The room was still, save for the wind outside. Moonlight stretched across his bare shoulders, casting soft silver over skin I still didn't feel like I deserved to touch. He didn't speak. Neither did I. He just reached over, pulled my hand into his lap, and held it like it was something fragile. "Do you ever wish we met differently?" he asked. "Yes," I said immediately. "But if we had, I wouldn't be this version of me." And I wouldn't know what it takes to survive. Silence again. Then his thumb brushed over the back of my hand. Maybe we don't need to rewrite it. Maybe we just need to stop bleeding from it. He looked at me. No walls. No armor. Just Alan. Exhausted and open and terrifyingly human. I'm tired of hurting you, he whispered. I'm tired of giving you reasons to. The next morning, I found the flash drive on the kitchen counter. No note. No threat. Just the metal glint of every secret he could have used against me. Left out, exposed, like he was finally choosing trust over leverage. I didn't delete it, didn't burn it, just tucked it in the drawer next to my passport and old life and left it there. Not because I feared he'd change his mind, but because I knew now he didn't need power over me anymore. He already had something stronger. A week later, he asked if I wanted to go back to the city, back to the noise, the spotlight, the past. I said, only if you're beside me. He smiled, slow and sure. I'm not done with you yet. And maybe he never would be. Maybe we'd keep unraveling and stitching each other back together over and over. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but together. We were no longer villain and victim, not prisoner and warden, not a redemption arc or a revenge fantasy. We were something Messier, something real. We were lovers. And for the first time, neither of us was running anymore.